Welcome to Signs from the Other Side with Fern Ronay. I'm your host, Fern Ronay, and this is the place to share stories of signs and messages received from the other side. Real quick before we get started, if you enjoy reading about signs and if you enjoy fiction like Bridget Jones and Sex and the City, you might enjoy my books, Better in the Morning and Better Believe It. And if you like this podcast, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe in Apple Podcasts and tell a friend too. Thank you so much for listening, and on to the show. Hello, I'm Fern Ronay. I'm host of the Signs from the Other Side podcast, a place to share stories and signs and messages received from our loved ones on the other side. And I'm waiting to do a podcast right now, which is why I have these funny looking things on. But I always say signs and messages are sometimes delivered in the form of an amazing coincidence. So this is a story that I always think of when I think of that. It's the story of a friend of my brother's who is blind and who describes living a life that was possibly holding him back. And he knew he had to take action, and this is what he did. And he received an extraordinary confirmation from his father.
I was a prisoner to my thoughts, and I was a prisoner in that apartment. So one day I decided I just got to open up my cane and walk to the corner. Finally, I got to the corner and I'm like, oh, thank God, I could just turn around. But I'm like, you know what? I know from walking around with Vince and Marianne, who was my girlfriend at the time and now my wife, there's a barber shop.
Did you have to cross any street?
I did. So I walked a little further and I started hearing this buzzing sound. And then I'm like, wow, I think this is it. So he's a little Italian man, Frank. I sat down in the chair. He starts cutting my hair. I like to tell people he didn't ask me how I wanted my hair cut, but that's a different story, He said, what's your name? And I said, David Dino Taras. And he stopped cutting my hair and he spun the chair around and he said to me, Dante was your father. He said, son, I cut your dad's hair for 30 years. And he told me that he had a blind son. And boy, was he proud of you. He told me that you had a big heart and you'd never give up.
In addition to Signs from the Other Side, dream visits, reincarnation, we also talk a lot about life lessons and what we were meant to learn here for our souls to evolve. And one of my favorite stories of a full circle moment where it was crystal clear that you learned what you had to learn and you are no longer in that space is this story I'm about to share that I love and appreciate so much.
I had an addiction, so I found myself constantly down in the Rampart area of LA, and I got arrested for possession, and I found myself handcuffed to a bench in the Rampart police station. They shut down that Rampart station, and then 5 years later, they made a movie about it with Woody Harrelson, and they reopened that station, and I was cast as one of the detectives in the movie. I had to change clothes into my detective uniform, the same exact bench that I had been handcuffed to like 5 years earlier. Talk about healing. Now I'm changing into my detective clothes on the same bench, telling the story of these corrupt police officers, which takes nothing away from my own culpability and things. But that's when I realized that this is how it goes sometimes. And if you can recognize that kind of stuff.
One thing that we talk about often is dream visits and the messages that come through. And sometimes the messages aren't clear until they become crystal clear. And this is a perfect example of that.
We were in a restaurant. I was with my family and I was in the front area by the bar waiting to go walk back and join them and sit down. And my mom walked in and up to me, and immediately I got that vivid feeling of I knew that I was connecting with her. I knew that this was not just a dream. It was that being really, really lucid within your dream. And so, of course, I felt a rush of love, and I was so happy to see her. And she looked at me and just smiled and said, I don't like slate. And I kind of looked at her really confused, and we were in a restaurant, so I guess my first thought was, oh, do you mean skate? Because that's I guess a kind of fish, which I didn't even know in real life, but apparently I did know that somewhere. And she looked at me very firmly and smiled and said, no, I mean slate. And everything shifted then, and she sort of was gone, and I walked back to join everybody, and then I woke up. And so as soon as I woke up, I jotted down the dream because I wanted to try to see like if I could look into that or figure something out. I spoke with my dad probably that same evening. He was renovating a house, and my kids were very little. My son probably was like, I say he was 3. My dad was being, wanted to share all the details, be very careful. And he said, one of the things I'm a little concerned about is I'm putting in slate floors, and I'm a little worried about Ben maybe tripping or whatever. And I immediately got chills. And so I shared with him the whole dream, and he was blown away.
One thing we're saying all the time is no coincidence. That was no coincidence. And one of my favorite stories is coming up. I'll share it right here. And when I heard this, I was like, there is no way this was a coincidence. It never is. You were meant to be there at that exact moment in that exact place to meet this person of all the billions of people on earth. This person was meant to be there at that moment as an absolute hello from the other side. And this is one of my favorite stories.
Before my mom passed away, I said to her, you have to keep in touch with me. I said, I don't know, connect with me through music. One of her favorite performances on the Oprah Winfrey Show was when Winona Judd was on, and she sang, I Want to Know What Love Is. And when I say my mom was obsessed with it, she must have listened to this recording 5 million times. We teased her about it. My whole family knew about it. It was like her thing. While we were waiting, we were on I think the second level of the bar, and I'm looking at the staircase, and this purple red hair, a lot of hair, is coming up the stairs. And I was like, who is that? And I was like, oh my God, it's Winona Judd. What is she doing at a Foo Fighters concert at 3 a.m?
Thank you so much for listening to Signs from the Other Side. You can find me, Fern Ronay, on all social media at Fern Ronay, Ronay. I love hearing from you, and I love hearing your stories of signs. And if you would like to hear more episodes of this show, please be sure to subscribe in Apple Podcasts. Thank you again, and sweet dreams.